David and Victor. We are in our tax dialogue from Global MBA Tax Management Compliance of Facultad Brasileira de Tributação. For us, it's a great honor to talk with David Rosembloom, who is professor of New York University and Capdale. Obviously, he has an extensive curriculum life because he's a big tax lawyer and tax player around the world. For us, it's a great honor for this interview. Thank you, David. Thank you, Victor, for helping us in this target.
Very good. Happy to do it.
Good. The topic, David, is how to invest in Latin America. The biggest player in South Pacific area, Chile, Colombia, and Peru, in economics, the three countries that shows in the last 20 years the best rates from the different perspective, according to the World Economic Forum, are precisely these three countries, Chile, Colombia, and Peru. And the three are involved right now in a little change of economic systems. Maybe we are moving to the left policy. So the question here for the investors, Peruvian, Chilean, Colombian, is how to invest in United States. And obviously from the tax perspective, for create a business factory in medicine, in chemical, in industry for food, for human being or for pets or another issue. Active business, and the other question is how to create a holding in the United States, or if you, David and Victor, think that it's not a good idea for us because we don't have a double tax treaty with the United States. So that's the two big questions in this interview. And what do you think, David, for the first questions about how to invest in the United States?
You know, in the short term, there are some treaties that can be used to invest in the United States. The prime treaty that, in my experience, has been used by people from South America has been the treaty with Hungary. Hungary has set itself up as a tax haven, and there is a treaty, but there is no limitation on benefits provision in it. And similarly in the treaty with Poland, but I think Poland is used less often. Poland has got some advantages though, because there are some very good people in Poland, very good advisors in Poland. So you'd want to consider those treaties. They are the principal way that I would think of to invest in the United States. Now, it might be possible, I haven't looked at this in detail, but it might be possible also to figure out a way to use one of the US possessions, Puerto Rico, or possibly the Virgin Islands. I'm not sure that works. I haven't had occasion to look at it. There's a lot of activity going on right now with Puerto Rico, which of course is Spanish speaking. I have my doubts as to how long that's going to last. For the longer term, the best thing would be to promote tax treaties, to get actual tax treaties. And I've been trying to get treaties, a treaty between the United States and Brazil. There's a pending treaty with Chile, which eventually will be approved. I think a certain amount of resource could be spent trying to get that treaty approved. That's a very significant treaty. Once the United States has a treaty in place with Chile, that will open up a lot of doors. Because as you know, Michael, the only treaty that the United States has now south of Mexico is with Venezuela. which is basically useless. Nobody wants to invest in Venezuela. So that's where the matter is. There is a certain degree of treaty shopping. I think that for any particular transaction, you really have to think about the details. And if you're talking about having a holding company in the U.S., you really need to think about how that would work, how the details would work. You can have a holding company in the U.S., but then you've got the problem of you don't have treaties with the South American countries or the other countries that you might want to invest in. So it's pretty hard to generalize. You really need to think about these transactions one at a time, what the objectives are. And if I were doing a transaction, certainly Hungary would be high on my list right now. I don't think that treaty is going to go into place anytime soon.
So Hungary is one option from your perspective.
Yes.
Right now, here in our three countries, Chile, Colombia, and Peru, there is a lot of real estate companies from the United States who came the last 1 month in order to try to sell hotels, buildings for renting in general. A lot of questions start from that position. All of these companies from the United States talk about the LLC. The LLC, in limited liability corporation, who have the equivalent in Peru and Chile, is a Sociedad Responsable Limitada, and is, for tax purposes, is a partnership for us. And the question is, okay, Hungary is the option because they have double TT with United States. The tax vehicle could be the LLC from your perspective, or what other?
Well, again, it depends on what you want to do. If you're investing via Hungary, my inclination would be to set up a corporation in Hungary and go in like that. I don't really, to be honest with you, I'm not totally trusting of the Hungarians. I don't like the politics over there, and but a lot of people have used Hungary, and they're very familiar with it. And there is an active local group of professionals who will help. I myself have had a lot of contacts over the years with Deloitte in Budapest. That treaty will eventually be changed. I mean, it's pending in the Foreign Relations Committee. It's just not going to be changed anytime soon, I don't think. There are no really good second options. The LLC is not a separate option. LLC is just a form of doing business, and you still need a treaty in order to really take advantage. I mean, in other words, the LLC is like investing through a partnership as opposed to a corporation. There's no magic in an LLC.
Okay.
So.
And what happened with the anti-treaty shopping clause? Because Colombia and Chile are part of the OECD, Peru is not. It's our target. United States is part of the OECD, but as I know, because you explained in the class last Monday, United States don't sign the MLI yet.
Right, Peru, they won't.
Yes, Peru, Chile, and Colombia signed in the last 2 years. So the question is, if our investor of our three countries who signed the MLI, and obviously the MLI have the mismatching hybrid criteria and other anti-BEPS, what happened with the treaty shopping for the tax authorities in general from Hungary or United States in the future if the United States signed the MLI? What is
The United States, Michael, the United States is not going to sign the MLI. I mean, there's no real point about thinking about the future on that. Now, the future, I think the Hungarian treaty will go away. It's just not going to go away. I mean, it depends on your time frame. If you're thinking about the next 5 years, 6 years, I hesitate to go out much beyond that. I think the Hungary treaty is still going to be there. You know, it's hard to say. I mean, the treaty is a substitute treaty is pending in the Senate, and it could be enacted. I just don't think it will be, not for a while.
It's been pending since 2010.
It's been pending since 2010. It's been pending for 11 years. It's not going to go tomorrow. But I don't think the MLI has any relevance here. We won't sign the MLI, and it doesn't have. Now, one thing that could happen is that you could urge the Peruvian government to start treaty negotiations with the United States. I don't know why Peru has not expressed any interest in that. Chile has, Colombia has. I think the United States should be able to get a treaty with Colombia, but of course, Colombia's got all sorts of internal problems, and I suppose that's true in Peru too. But they should be able to get a treaty with the United States if they want one. And I don't know why Peru is not doing that. It would make sense.
Yes, exactly. Well, when I was the chairman of tax committee in AmCham, American Chamber of Commerce, United States in Peru, and at the same time of the tax committee of Bank Association here, we suggest that Peru needs this DTT, but unfortunately, it's not. Nobody started negotiation. But at the end of the day, as you said, Venezuela is the one.
Well, you know, Venezuela got the treaty, and the reason that Venezuela entered into the treaty was the petroleum investments.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
But I mean, there's plenty of U.S. investments in Brazil and also in Colombia. I don't know about Peru. Chile, there's a fair amount of U.S. investment in Chile. So I would have thought that, and Chile obviously had an interest in negotiating a treaty. Their negotiator is Liz Latkana, and she knows what she's doing. She's a very competent person.
Okay. And Canada, Professor Rosembloom, what happened with Canada? Because the United States have a very creative DTT with Canada. It's
right.
Maybe one of the most complex DTT around the world.
We have a very complicated, very interesting and useful treaty with Canada, but it can't be borrowed by third countries very conveniently. I don't think it's possible to borrow that treaty and invest in the United States via Canada. I know you asked about this, but I don't see how that's possible, because there is a limitation on benefits clause in that treaty, and it'll preclude third country investors from using that treaty. Now, let me say, Michael, that we're talking very generally. I mean, if somebody has a specific idea, I'd be happy to look at it and see whether I think it works. But I think treaty shopping is going to be harder to do in the future, because if the Revenue Service gets more money to hire people, they're going to get more interested in compliance. And actually, I'm going to talk about compliance to the class on the 21st. And one of the things I'm going to talk about is the campaigns that the Revenue Service is now running to try to increase compliance.
Exactly, yes. Well, the general questions for the investor here is how to move the holding, because until these days, the holding of the Peruvian, Colombian, Chilean are in our countries. In the case of the Peru, Colombia, and Ecuador and Bolivia, because we have the Comunidad Andina, it's a multilateral double tax treaty for income tax purposes. And it's very advantageous create a holding in our same countries. With Chile, they don't part of Comunidad Andina, they use OECD model, but Peru and Colombia have the DTT, and it's it's a good DTT. The question is how to move our holding to another safe country for the investing. First, second, how to create more value in another markets in general in Latin America, because holding is not only a paper company. The idea is holding with substance, with a commercial view in order to increase the market share for the business. And obviously, the investors are not trying to move in general to another country. They are resident from our countries. And with that issue within the political systems, how to move the holding. That's the questions in general. And obviously, if they can invest in United States in real estate or creating a factory or another commercial business, is good because the market share increase.
Well, you know, Michael, if the holding company that you speak of is actually engaged in a business itself, so if, for example, your investors, I don't know, I assume that many of them have got investments in, say, Spain. It might be possible to use a country like Spain. In fact, it even might be possible to use Canada if you've got a real trade or business going on in the holding company. But if it's a pure holding company, it's not going to work. You're going to need that will not. Then you run into problems with treaty shopping. In order to beat the treaty shopping situation, you have to have a real trade or business, and it has to be substantial. So the best place to move a holding company would be to move one where you've already got a subsidiary doing business. I don't know whether any of your countries do business in Mexico. Mexico would be a possible candidate. Spain would be a possible candidate. But again, the details are going to be what controls this. You're not going to be able to talk about this in general terms.
Perfect. That's the idea of the create business with substance. From the United States perspective, what is the substance economic in business for investors?
Well, it's got to be substantial in relation to the investment in the United States. So if you wanted to do a holding in, say, Spain, and you wanted to invest a lot in the United States, you'd have to have a fair degree of actual business presence in Spain to make that holding work. You can't just open an office with one person and expect it to work. It would have to be a real trader business in the holding company.
Okay, and the other, if the holding used for treasury business in order to change money in the currency market, because the volatility of the dollar with our currency create an opportunity for the business people, and a lot of companies, a family office with a lot of money, all the time trying to move or create a desk in order to change money easily. That kind of business from United States perspective is substance in your view, Professor?
Probably not. I mean, you probably would need something more than that in order to pick a treaty country to do it in. You'd probably, if you're gonna do an actual business, you'd have to have a real functioning business. I think just a treasury function is probably not sufficient. Be my guess. I mean, again, I can't overemphasize this. You really need to look at these cases one by one. But my guess is that a pure treasury function will not satisfy the treaty shopping rules.
So if the group company use the cash pooling for the currency in their subsidiary, from your perspective, have not substance. But if this desk or treasury desk sell the same service FX to another company that are not related with the group, in that case, have the substance.
Maybe. Yes. Yeah. Again, depending on the facts, yes, could. If it's an actual business, yes. Yes. If it's not just internal to the group.
Perfect. Yes, because cash pooling is, at the end of the day, is lending between company in the same family who
Right,
needs money.
right. That's not gonna be sufficient. That's right.
Perfect. In the case of Spain, when, for example, as we know, the credit card companies like Visa, Mastercard, I don't know, move the last 10 years the hub. Previous, both of them are resident to the United States, from Latin America market moved to Spain. In the case of Peru, at the end of the day, that move not was an advantage because Peru don't have the DTT with Spain, but the other countries in Latin America have.
Yes,
it.
Colombia certainly does.
Yeah, Chile too, Brazil, Argentina, in general, all except Peru. And that's the problem. In Peru, the biggest player investor outbound or inbound, sorry, is Spain, United States in that order. Other countries, Chinese recently, but we do not have a double tax treaty with they.
Right.
Maybe what can you to do of our government in order to understand the importance of the BTT for the
Well,
business?
I mean, a tax treaty is important for the purpose of attracting investment, and it's also important for the purpose of allowing local people to invest abroad. I mean, that's the case we've been making to Brazil for decades, and the Brazilians have, they say they want a treaty, but then when you sit down with them, they're not very interested. I think we may be moving toward a treaty with Brazil. I will assure you that if we get a treaty with Colombia, Brazil will pay attention. Brazil will want to enter into a treaty at that point.
Okay. The last question, Professor David, about the digital economy, because obviously Estados Unidos and China are the big player, but in Latin America, including in Peru, Chile, and Colombia, we have our players, obviously smaller than if we compare with the United States or Chinese. But if the Peruvian investor, Chilean or Colombian, invest in this creating unicorn in order to increase their market share in the United States. In the United States, there are digital economy or there are taxes for this kind of digital economy?
Well, it depends on the degree of presence in the United States. We don't have a VAT. We don't have a value-added tax. And I think the United States is not going to adopt a digital service tax. You can be sure of that. So I think there's a lot of things you can do even without a treaty in a digital service. I mean, you don't have to have a major physical presence, but you have to be careful. What a treaty allows you to do is it takes the pressure off, and it allows you to be careful. It allows you to be more. You don't have to pay attention to everything you do. Without a treaty, you run the risk of generating a very large tax bill without realizing it. The treaties help, and of course the treaty gives you an opportunity to discuss any disputes. Without a treaty, you have no means of contacting the tax officials on the other country. So treaties are very helpful for investors. They permit the countries to talk to each other, which is to the investor's advantage.
Exactly, because we can apply the business profit provision.
Sure. Yes.
Whereas
our trader business standard is much lower.
Exactly. Yes, it's a good point, because if we create economy digital company, if we have DTT, we can apply the residence criteria, but we don't have. That's the problem.
I'm gonna ask Victor if he wants to chime in and give you a little views in Spanish on what he thinks we could do here.
A ver. I don't know. I don't know that I have anything to add. That's all been pretty good.
Well, but okay. I
Sí.
mean, but you've advised people.
Sí, no, la gente que viene a invertir mucho de lo que, al menos de lo que yo veo, es invertir en bienes raíces en los Estados Unidos. Y cuando viene a negocios, sí, lo que yo he visto, varios vienen de España, pero porque tienen contactos físicos en España. Pero también depende mucho en la inversión, como dice David, uno tiene que tener mucho cuidado en exactamente lo que están haciendo, y la empresa y el negocio.
Exacto, porque justo lo que se busca es evitar el 3D shopping. ¿Qué consideraciones se tiene en cuenta para que el fisco americano diga que hay un 3D shopping? Y cuando no...
Como dijo David, muchas veces lo que están mirando es sustancia, qué es lo que tienes en el otro país, si es un pedazo de papel ahí en el pupitre de un abogado en el otro país, o si tienes personas físicas, inversión, qué tienes de capital invertido en el otro país. Lo que uno mucho ve en los países en Europa, como estaba hablando David, es tienes un proveedor de servicios que te pone la empresa, se lo saca de ahí, de la maleta, y ahí mismo ya estás compartiendo una oficina con 27 otras empresas, y entonces ahí es cuando uno empieza a decir que no hay sustancia aquí.
Perfecto. Perfecto, Víctor. So, thank you for your time, David.
Thank you, Michael. A pleasure to do it. If we can be of any help, just let us know.
It was a pleasure for me and for the university. Thank you again.
And I'll see you on the 21st, and we'll talk further. Peter Barnes is next week.
Yeah, yes. Okay. See you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.